Hey friends, thanks for joining me again. It's the second episode here of our little corner of YouTube, as I like to call it, and I am happy to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me and supporting me with this channel. I've been thinking over the last couple of weeks since recording the last one about kind of what I wanted to talk about in this video and kind of what direction to take with this, and we've had a lot going on in our lives lately, and I wanted to invite you into some of that and share a little bit with you without getting too personal, because this is the internet and some things are okay to not put out all out there. But some of this I would love to kind of take you along our journey and kind of where we're at right now. As part of this video, when I do record, I would like to share with you some of my progress over the last couple of weeks with my creating, whether it be quilting, cross stitching, any type of making that way, and just kind of fill you in on the happenings of life and what we've been up to. I am a little bit shameful to say I don't have as much progress to report, but in the same sense, once I share with you why, I'm sure you'll understand why. But the progress that I've been making in my life has not been directly related to my making with quilting, crafting, anything that way, that creating, but rather in my family side of things. And that is where my priorities lie and always will. But I'm recording this in obviously the second week of July, getting ready to launch that. And the one thing I did want to share with you on some progress that I shared in the last video was a cross stitch piece that I'm working on. And it was a patriotic piece. For those of you that might be wondering, this is just some painter's tape, and I usually line my cross stitch with that to help it from fraying. And the reason I've chosen to use painter's tape, some people will sew, some people use masking tape. Painter's tape tends to not stick quite as much as masking tape does, so it's easier to peel off and it doesn't fray my edges as much, I found. So while it might look a little tacky and maybe not so pretty to look at right now, I've liked the results I've gotten from that, and I am okay with this. Again, this is the way I like to do things, and there might be some policing and opinions out there on how that does or doesn't work, or may not be the right thing, and that's okay. Everyone has something that works for them, and that's the beauty of creating, is we want things to be unique to us and what works well for us. But the last time I shared this, I had just gotten started, or didn't have much of a progress on it, but I'm happy to say I did get quite a bit done. Almost done with the S on the word bless there. And then I just got a few letters left here. Finish out that flag and a couple of stars. I am actually planning to continue working on this month. And I'll share more about why in just a moment. But some of you may think, oh, the 4th of July is over. Patriotic, let's move on and get to the next projects. But I shared in my last video that I am from Utah. And here in Utah, we actually have another holiday in the month of July, and that is what we refer to as the 24th of July, or Pioneer Day, if you will. And it kind of does double duty for us in the sense that we can keep our patriotic decor out and continue to celebrate. So we get to continue living that, being patriotic throughout the month. And so that's why I'm going to choose to keep working on this, because that's not over for us here in Utah. We're staying with the celebrating, keeping things running. But Pioneer Day, for those of you that may or may not be aware, is the time when our state was founded. A lot of history goes back behind that, and you're welcome to go and do some research on that. But essentially, the long story short would be the Mormon pioneers that settled our state. That was the time when they came and had traveled from back east and decided to settle in the state of Utah and make that their home. And so that is where Utah began. And the 24th of July is the day that we recognize that, and that is why we refer to it as Pioneer Day. Lots of fun stories that go behind that, and the heritage of those that are associated with those Mormon pioneers that came about and across those plains from back east here in America. But a lot of great stories and a lot of not so great stories that came with that. And a lot of people that are local or have been in the state of Utah have some pretty deep roots that run with that. And I thought that would be the perfect segue to kind of run into the topic I wanted to talk about today, which goes along with heritage and how that heritage runs deep with our hobbies. A lot of us can find hobbies and interests based on just a whim, if you will. And some of us have some type of a reason why we connect with that. And for me, quilting and creating and now cross stitching, not coincidentally, have a tie for me, that it goes back pretty deep in my roots. I talked a little bit about that in the first video, but I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper today and show some things that might explain a little bit more of why this is near and dear to my heart and kind of where that sits for me. So while this piece is not related directly to any of this in my heritage, it does relate to my heritage in the sense that American, obviously, through and through, and that maker in my heart and where that comes from with my heritage, clear back when. I'm not going to get into the details of having to listen to my whole family tree and where that goes back. If you want to ever hear that, happy to share it. It's something I'm proud of and love to talk about, but another story for another day, right? So that's kind of where I wanted to take today's video. But before we dive into that, I want to fill you in a little bit on happenings in my life lately. So this summer's been a whirlwind for us. I mentioned before that I have 3 children, and my oldest is 18, and he has chosen to volunteer to do a service work, some missionary work related to our church. And he was selected to serve in the country of Chile for the next couple of years. And we are so excited for him and what that's going to put in front of him and the opportunities that he's going to have. Very mixed emotions for us as parents, obviously, letting your 18-year-old child go to a country so far from us, and to be quite honest, something we don't know a lot about. But we are excited for him and the eagerness that he has to do that, and the willingness that he has to want to go and serve people that he hasn't even met, and that he's ready to go and do that service work for. So this whole summer has essentially been us preparing to get him ready, since we knew back in February of this year that that's where he was going to be going. And we were trying to wrap the end of high school and all the happenings that come with being a senior in high school. That's busy as it is, and then also trying to line him up with getting ready for this next 2 years when he would be away from us and living on his own, exciting opportunities that way. But there was a lot that came behind that, and that was obviously a lot of weekends of shopping to get him lined up with everything he needed to pack and get ready to go, and then just lining up all of his affairs to get put on pause here while he goes to another country. And it was a lot of emotions, and a lot of really good emotions, and a lot of really deep and good talks. So it kind of brought us together with our oldest that way, and building a relationship with him before he was had this chance to leave. So eventually things get down to the wire, and we had the opportunity to take him to our local airport this last week, and we shipped him off a few days ago. That was bittersweet, and it was something kind of difficult to know that we won't be seeing him in person face to face for a couple of years, but luckily we do get to chat with him on a fairly regular basis and keep in the loop of how things are going, and keep him in the happenings of what's going on back home while he's away. But being our oldest, we hadn't really sent a child off on their own yet, let alone to another country. So that was an experience, to say the least. I've had some emotional ups and downs trying to remind myself that this is what he wants and what's going to be good, and what we feel and believe in our hearts is the right thing for him to be doing right now. So it's not easy as a parent to let your first one fly the nest, if you will, that way, and get on their own. But he's excited, so it makes us excited as well. So a few days ago we went up and got him on his way, and while we were up there in what we call the big city, because I'm from a pretty small town, we were able to hit some of the bigger box stores and get some shopping done while we were up there, and get caught up on a few things, and then get back home to get settled back into our new reality and our new life and our new normal. we'll just have 2 kids around the house now, and things have felt a little bit quieter, and we're slowly adjusting, and it's all good things. So we'll try to keep you all filled in along the way of how things are going for him, and obviously for us along the way. But really excited to see where this is going to take him. While we were there, we stopped in a store that we have here in Utah. It's called the Grace Company, and they are a company that specializes in long arms. I've had some things I've been wanting to look into that way for a little while, and while I was there, I just wanted to share some new products that I picked up that I thought would be fun for you sewists and anybody along that might just be kind of in the market for some new things to try, or maybe you've seen these and that's wonderful. Maybe I'm behind the times a little bit, and I'll admit that's probably not a big surprise if that happens, but I was able to pick up a couple of things. So this brand that I ran across while I was there is called True Cut. They're still in the wrapper, if you can't tell, so I'll have the chance to break into these on my next project and report back on how I like them, but I'm actually really optimistic that these are going to be fun. They had a little tester table to be trying some things out. So I picked me up a couple of new rulers. This one is a 6.5 by 24.5 ruler, and it has some little sticky tabs that you can put on the back of your ruler to help it from sliding on your fabric as you're cutting. This is really hard to see in the video, so if you want to look this up online, but there is a small little lip on the edge of this ruler. And I really liked this because if you use rulers and rotary cutters, if you're like me, you probably have a time when you're using your cutter and you go to slice and maybe your blade kind of hops the ruler a little bit, or slides here and there. And I love that it had that lip because you can not only keep your hand and your thumb protected, but it helps that blade not be slipping up on your ruler and, number one, dulling your blade a little bit, but also damaging your ruler along the way. So I was in the market for a new 6.5 by 24.5 ruler. I thought that was a fun one to try out. It has some little holes in here. You can kind of see those. I could poke right through them, honestly, but the marketing shows that it's so that you can hold your fingers down in there and hold it to the fabric as well. If you don't want the sticky strips, the sticky circles there, you can help see through your fabric to kind of line that up if you're trying to kind of do any kind of fussy cutting, or to just kind of help hold that ruler through your fabric at the same time. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. I also do a lot of t-shirt quilting, and I have a fairly big one. I've been looking for a couple more sizes, so I also got me 9.5 inch squared with the same, and a smaller one that's a 6.5 inch squared. Both of those also have that raised edge to it with the holes in it. So I'm excited for those. That'll be a fun new product. So with these videos, I thought it might be fun to show you my latest purchases, latest finds, or maybe some favorites if you're like me, you like a good snack while you're quilting. So here and there, I might be sharing some snacks or some good treats that I found to maybe help you in your creating and crafting. But today I decided I wanted to choose to highlight these True Cut products. Again, they're still in the packaging, but from what I was able to test them there in the store, they look really promising, and I'm really excited. So I thought it was worth highlighting to show you. The last item that I decided to buy was an ergonomic cutter, a rotary cutter. This one I purchased a 45mm, and the thing that was nice about these is they can be right or left-handed. So I am a right-handed cutter, but I know a lot of people that are left-handed, and it's hard to have to use cutters that are designed to be right-handed. And this one's nice because it can work either way. You don't have to buy a specialized one that way, but you can see the way that it's designed, rather than my cutter is not even with me at the moment, but a usual straight rotary cutter, these are more ergonomic friendly, so that it's easier on your wrist. If you've had a lot of long days of cutting, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but those can get hard on your hands and hard on your wrist, where these ergonomics are a lot more promising to be helping with that. So kind of fun new product. I thought would be fun to highlight and share. I'll report back as I start using them a little more to let you know if I do or don't like them either way. But if any of you have had experience with them, I'd love for you to leave a note in the comment here. Let us know what you think. Are there other products that they have that you've tried out? They did have some rotary blade sharpeners that I pointed out to my husband and asked him to put on my wish list for the upcoming holidays. So I thought that would be fun to give a try, as well as some of the sharpeners for those blades. And see what kind of products go that way. So yeah, we'll set that aside, and next video I'll choose something, a new favorite to share and highlight with you. So that's kind of been life lately. As you can tell, I haven't had a lot of fully finished projects, and that's mainly why. That little bit of stitching that I was able to do on that piece is kind of where I've gone. I did get some sewing done, some quilting yesterday, but it is for an upcoming project, so I'm not able to share it yet on this video. But as soon as I get that fully completed, I will definitely be sharing that as soon as possible to highlight and share with you all that way. In the meantime, the last couple weeks, I was also able to take 3 tops to my local long armor and get those going. One of them is a pattern that I already have had designed, the kaleidoscope pattern. So I was able to finish that top and get that over to the quilter. He is working on that for me so that I can get that binding finished and put on before our upcoming Quilters Heritage Festival, which I mentioned in the last video. But if you're new here, that one is quiltersheritagefestival.com. Lots of fun information. We also have our own Facebook page you can go and check out for that. But I am part of the committee for that event, and I will be teaching a class on that kaleidoscope pattern. And so I wanted to make it up in another colorway of what I had originally designed in the pattern, and that's what's currently being created and finished at the long arm. Really excited to see the differences and be able to show you guys how you can choose your own fabrics and your own colors and make it exactly what you want that way too. I had 2 other quilt tops. One was a row of the month that I worked on from Missouri Star, and that was a really fun one. Taught me some really good skills, and I got to practice some new things. When that's finished, I'll share that on the video and show you kind of how that one turned out. And the other top I had was one that I have been working on with a local group of gals that we get together once a month to sew. And we had recently been working on my kaleidoscope pattern so I could kind of pattern test it with everybody. But before we did that, our first quilt that we did together was this other top. I don't remember the name of it right now, I'm so sorry, but when I showcase that and share that in that video, I'll make sure I highlight that. It was a block of the month, so each block is different, and it again just taught a lot of fun skills. And I'll talk more a little bit about how I chose the fabrics and stuff for that as we go, when I have that quilt ready to share. So lots of good things going on, just a little bit behind the scenes and nothing to really share outright today. And that's okay. But I did want to report back that I have been busy doing some things, just not a lot to have physically ready to share quite yet. Those will be coming in the near future. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the topic I wanted to go about today is kind of centered more around that heritage of quilting and where that's going to take us. And that felt perfectly in line for me because we are thinking so much about our heritage here in Utah right now. And the reason that our state was founded is because of where a lot of Utahns come from. But that to me kind of tied back with my own heritage in quilting and creating. And I have some projects here I wanted to share with you to kind of show a little bit more of why this runs so deep in my blood. This goes back generations, literally, for me. And I'm hoping to instill that in more generations in the future to come at the same time. My daughter has kind of dabbled in different things, and it's fun to be watching her develop her own skills, and that way currently she does sew really well, and especially for her age, she's almost 15 and she's doing quite well with that, but she's not afraid to try. If I'm making something, I help her pick out a pattern that looks like it could fit her skill set, and as long as she's got the patience for it and seems to be in that frame of mind, she does not hesitate whatsoever, and she likes to go along with me to help pick fabrics and choose things. She's kind of going a little bit in the direction of, she likes to do designing. They got this fun skill in one of her classes this last year or two where she likes to design house layout, floor plans. And so she's always constantly designing new things that way. And but probably, I would say, one of her biggest hobbies right now is painting, to where she'll get acrylic paints and paint pictures. She'll kind of find something on the internet and then just kind of do her own thing with it. And it's fun to watch her skills grow that way, and kind of evolve and stretch herself. My husband is actually very very talented when it comes to drawing, and he doesn't do it quite as much anymore as he used to. He's found some other hobbies he likes, but in our early days of dating and whatnot, he would draw some pictures for me that way, and I've seen his sketchbooks from his younger days, and I joke and tease my daughter that she gets that side of her talents from her father, not from me. And we can claim the sewing and the baking and stuff. I'll take that side of it, but whatever it takes to build a little bit of confidence is kind of where I like to try to encourage, especially kids in those upcoming generations. I shared my story in the last video, so if you haven't had a chance to watch that, I'd encourage you to go back and watch that about my first quilt and kind of where that came from. I do plan to talk a little bit more on kind of my journey through quilting and where that first quilt went up to kind of where I'm now, and some projects in between. But that's a whole nother story for another day and another video. So today I wanted to focus it a little bit more on my ancestors and where those come from on my side of things. I have creating in my blood. It's really the easy way to say it. It comes from both sides, on both my mom and my dad's side, and generations on either of their sides as well. I was lucky enough to get to have a very close relationship with both of my grandmothers on both my mom's side and my dad's side. And I was also lucky enough to know one of my great-grandmothers, my mom's grandmother, on her mother's side. And I've also heard many stories, and I have had things passed down to me from other generations in the family. So I'm going to plug in a photo right now and take a pause for a minute and show you a little corner in my home that I've put together of some of the things I've collected from the makers in my life. So the fun thing about that is that photo to me, and that little corner of my house, represents everything. I don't even know another way to say that. There is somebody in my family tree line on both sides, all the way around, that is represented in that photo, whether it be my mother's grandmother, so my great-grandmother, my father's grandmother, some other great-grandmothers, aunts, great-aunts, all the way across the family that way. I even have some things on that cupboard that were my grandfather's and great-grandfather's. There's some things stashed inside the cupboard at the same time that I don't have out on display quite as much, just because I tend to have little hands in my home a lot with my nieces and nephews and friends, that I try to keep tucked away a little bit more. And there are things not in that cupboard that are in my cedar chests that are tucked away, that are special to me, that come from generations of that way. The cupboard itself was even made by one of my grandfathers, and it's just special to me that our family recognizes the value that comes behind creating and making, and where that is, and the time and the effort that's put behind that, and that by gifting that to somebody or holding that dear, kind of helps you to hold on to a memory of them at the same time. So my mom is still a creator and a maker through and through. I love that she supports me in it. She's joined our little quilting group that I mentioned earlier, that she comes and helps test my patterns and will give me some really great feedback along the way. And now that we've moved out of her house and given her some of her space back, my brothers and I, she's able to set up a room to where she can have her space to craft and create and kind of just have her time and space. And I love that she's taking the opportunity to do that herself. She is and always has been a very talented seamstress. One part I did not inherit. I've tried my hand at making clothes here and there, but I am definitely not as talented and patient as she is herself. but she made clothes and things for me that way when I was younger. I believe it's at her house, so maybe in a future video I could get my hands back on this or track it down and find it again. But I had a ballet performance once when I was younger that I got one of the roles, and she helped make my dress for that. And I still remember seeing photos. I still remember wearing it, but I know we have photos around of it somewhere as well. And maybe if I find it, I can plug it into this video too. But the dress itself, I believe, is still at her house. And she is and just always has been so willing to do things. She, my daughter was the first granddaughter on our side of the family, and she was very spoiled to get a lot of handmade items from grandma, from my mom. But one thing I do remember growing up is my mom taking the time to sit down and make and craft. She always has been a very hard worker, and I'm gonna get teared up just talking about it. But one thing I really appreciated and valued in her was when she could take the time to herself and take care of herself that way. One piece that I did grab that just represented her, that she has given to me since, is this piece that she did some cross stitching and a little bit of embroidery work on. So I play the piano myself. She made this and it was displayed on our piano as I was growing up, and my brothers didn't play. We tried to put them in lessons, but imagine that. Boys, they didn't carry that through. So she has since passed this down to me, and it's now being held very special to me as something that my mom made and represented kind of some of my hobbies, but one of her hobbies in connection in return that way. So I do want to preface is, before I move along any further, I have some items that represent a lot of makers in my family, but it is not saying this is all they do. I could talk for hours and hours and show off everything that I have either here or at my mom's house that she has that represent these people in our family. So this is one thing that when I look at this makes me think of my mom. And I love her for that, and I love the example that she's been to me that way. So let's just start there on that side of things with my mom's side. My mom that way, and then her mom was also a maker and a crafter, creator. Grandma had a talent for crochet that nobody else seems to quite be able to replicate. My mom does crochet, and I will hand that to her by all means. But I'm gonna post a picture of Grandma. I'm actually looking at it right here. I have it displayed in my sewing room. But I'm gonna take a minute and post it here for you to see. And this grandma, we unfortunately lost her a few years ago, but I had the opportunity to get very close with her, and a lot of it was connected to our love of making and crafting together and creating. She tried to teach me how to crochet many a times, and I just could not get it. I am determined one day I will still figure it out, but I remember sitting on the couch with her having lessons and just not being able to get my brain and my hands to work together that way, which I do regret. But my mom, she does a lot of crocheting, especially around baby blankets. It's one thing Grandma was very well known for, and I have many of those stashed in my cupboard that Grandma made for my 3 children. But one thing that it always makes me think of Grandma are the outfits and the things that she would make. So this was a really cute one. This was mine. She would made for me when I was a baby, and the cute little tassel on the top. And this was very loved. Don't look too closely because I definitely wore it and loved it. But this one was one that Grandma made for me. And then also this cute jacket here. Kind of heavy, but that means it's warm, right? That's the whole purpose of having jackets like that. Wearing those, we have some cold winters here in Utah. So not only did Grandma start making for me when I was very young, and she did a lot of hand quilting, which I am, again, something I haven't gotten into myself. But when I say hand quilting, it's not tying a quilt, hand quilting, it's actually hand quilting. And she loved to do that. It was just methodical for her. I remember her setting up frames in this last home that she lived in, and she would just go in there and she didn't even need to have music on or anything. It could just be her thing to just sit and hand quilt all day. And she would call up me or my mom and say, hey, can you come and help me roll the quilt? And she was ready for it to be turned. I don't know how she could quilt as fast as she did, but she was a goer. And I have a lot of quilts that she helped to do some hand quilting on that I will always cherish and hold dear because of that. A couple of them I'm going to share in a later video because of another topic that I would like to talk about. But the one I wanted to share today is this one. I did not make this one. Obviously, she did all the work on this and my mom did the binding on it. This was before I got into quilting myself, but when my oldest was born, we had his room decorated up and things like Winnie the Pooh. That was the theme for the bedroom. So Grandma took this, and it's tricot on the front and nice flannel on the back, and she took a Winnie the Pooh pattern and traced it on the front. And I'll try to get a good photo of this to post on the video as well, but she was able to hand quilt a cute little Winnie the Pooh onto that. I think you can kind of see it right there. And this was the blanket that was on his crib for years. It got very loved. There were some spots that didn't come out in the wash, and I am okay with that. Our family has a motto that if we spend the time to make it, it needs to be used. And if it doesn't hold up, that means it was loved and used. And so we're okay with spots and we're okay with wear and tear. Again, that just means it was loved. So Grandma she did a lot of creating and making over the years. We all kind of had our times of, for lack of a better way to say it, fighting over what Grandma created and made in the end when we were trying to kind of divvy things up that way. I definitely feel like I got my fair share, but I have some other things tucked away. So again, this is not saying this is all Grandma did, because she did a lot of hand crocheting. Doilies were one thing that Grandma was very well known for. I have some tucked away that I have in my mind of a project I'd like to do. In the future video, I'm going to share one that I just absolutely love. It's in my mom's house now. I'm hoping one day I'll be able to have my hands on it in the far distant future, but just every time I look at it, it just makes me think of Grandma. And so yeah, that my mom's mom, that she was an amazing quilter, and a lot of that was hand quilting, and something that I definitely cherish. I actually, now that I think back, I'll have to ask my mom about this. I don't know if she ever had any of her things machine quilted. Even if she would buy cheater fabric, she would hand quilt around that. And whatnot. She did do some piecing, but when it comes to the actual quilting, I'm not sure that any of her work was ever machine pieced. I could be wrong about that. I'll have to talk to my mom that way, but to find out for sure. But a lot of hand quilting, which those of you that may know that know how much work goes behind that one. Next up after Grandma would be her mother, which I was lucky enough to know for a few years of my life that way. I believe I was 10 or 12 when she passed away, but she was a very talented maker as well. And that Grandma as well was known for her crocheting, and this is one that she a tablecloth, a round tablecloth. So this, if you took a peek at the video of my little corner, this is displayed on that as well. But those of you that know, these are like giant doilies, so a lot of work. And I'm not going to unfold the whole thing, but you can see that's just about a quarter of it folded in half many times. And that one is very special and dear to me, that I have my hands on that one. These are the same types of things that her daughter, my grandmother, would make. And so now that I'm looking at this, I'm second guessing this might have been my grandma's and not my great grandmother's. Either way, it was on that side of the family, so I'm going to double check that one with my mom. But these are the types of things that remind me of that side of the family. And I remember going to visit their homes and seeing this all over, and just the work that would go behind these. Great grandma was also very well known for the cute little dolls. Some of you may be familiar with these, and this was my own doll that she made for me when I was a little girl. Very well loved. Some of the yarn's pretty frayed and worn, and her little bottle definitely got used quite well. It's kind of falling apart that way. But I remember playing with this baby doll hours and hours on end, and they are stitched into the blanket that's stitched behind them. My favorite color growing up was pink. Still pretty partial to that. And I don't know if Grandma knew that or if she took a lucky shot, but my baby doll was pink, and definitely hit a spot for me because this little thing went with me a lot of places and a lot of times. So another little piece that kind of represents that crocheting, creating work that comes from the generations in my family. The last piece I wanted to share with that grandmother is this one. Quite a few years back, we had a family reunion with this side of the family, and we were at this reunion and this quilt top was out for display, and I just really was eyeing it down because I was still a little bit newer in the quilting world, but enough that I was feeling confident in knowing what I was looking at and appreciating what was going on. And this one was sitting out for display, and I was in awe with this, and I just couldn't, it just made me kind of take a look at the art of quilting in a little different format, and let me show you why. So if you can see right here, this quilt top was hand stitched by my great grandma. And those pieces obviously pressed the very, very best she could and did do. I would not be surprised if this was also cut with scissors and not a rotary cutter because of that. The whole top, this looks like a bow tie pattern to me, but the way that it's set in there with that centerpiece, it could be a slight variation, and maybe it is just a traditional bow tie, but I was, like I mentioned, I just remember eyeing that one down quite a bit at that family reunion, and took a picture of it. I actually still have it in my archive of photos from that reunion. For some reason, it just resonated with me. I wanted a photo of it. And mainly of that stitching, and appreciating how much work went behind the even stitches that went with that hand stitching. And it had a few months passed, maybe even a year. I don't know how long it had been. And I got a surprise package in the mail from my great aunt, and opened it up, and there was a pattern book inside of it. It said, hey, this was a book of Grandma's, and I just wanted to, I thought you might find it special that you would like it. And I took the book out, and to my surprise, underneath the book was this quilt top as well. And I started crying. I just felt like, I feel like I'm going to right now. Emotions are pretty high for me right now. I didn't know, to say thanks, it was just not enough to me. I didn't know really what to say. And I don't know what I want to do with this one right now, because I don't feel like my hand stitching, my hand quilting is to a point that it's on par enough to do it justice. And for me, a lot of the value and appreciation behind it is being able to see that stitching. So if I finish it off, that stitching's all inside. So I'm kind of stuck right now. It's still just sitting here for me to admire and love. If you have any ideas, I'm all open to things like that. I want it to be loved and valued and appreciated. I think it's about a throw size. I measured it once, and it's been a while since I've measured it again, but can you tell patriotic fabrics kind of resonate with our family? I don't know why. Now that I'm looking at all of this, I'm like, wow, we do a lot of red, white, and blues. But maybe it's because of our heritage around here and this time of year. But yeah, I would love if anybody has thoughts or ideas on that one. I'm totally open to it. So Grandma did a lot. My mom has many, many projects at her home that maybe sometime we can do a little tour at Grandma's house, tour at my mom's house of the things that she has from even her side. And then she has been gifted some things from my dad's side of the family as well. I'd like to talk about some things on my dad's side as well, but before I hop over to that, there is one other thing. My mom's sister was also a creator and a maker, and we unfortunately lost her at a very young age, but enough that I did know her briefly. Don't have a lot of super close memories with her, but I do remember her. And I have two things that are very special to me that she made for me. She had a daughter that I'm fairly close with, and then obviously me. We have other girl cousins too on that side of the family, but this is one thing that she made. Cute little Care Bear. Those of you that remember the Care Bears, this was mine, and my aunt made that one for me, and that got a lot of playtime involved in that one. And the other would be this blanket. So I couldn't find this one when I was getting ready to film the video, and I remember once giving it to my daughter and saying, "This is really special to Mom, so you're welcome to use it in your room, but do not lose it and ruin it, because this one's been very loved." So I went to hunt it down to use for the video, and I couldn't find it. I knew she'd stashed it in her room somewhere. I couldn't find it. So she happened to be gone at the moment. So I called and I said, "You know my blue and yellow blanket? Where is it at?" She's like, "Which one are you talking about?" I said, "You know the one that was this was my blankie." And I said, "I gave it to you to keep track of." I said, "I can't see it in your room. Do you know where it is?" She's like, "You mean the white blanket?" And I just had to laugh, because back in the day, this thing was blue and yellow tricot. So when I say we want things to be loved and used, I'm not joking, in the sense that I promise it used to be baby blue and yellow, and it is not quite those colors anymore, but that's okay. But this thing went everywhere with me, and there's holes in it. It hardly has any batting. I can almost see through that when I look through it. I don't know if you can see that lighting there. And the colors are so faded. My husband teased me that I was going to take this on our honeymoon. That's how much this thing went around with me. But the tricot is so cozy, and there's something about it that I did. I kept this thing with me, sleeping with me, not in a sense of like comfort and cuddly, but just I liked the feel of tricot. It did not go on our honeymoon with us, regardless of what he might tell you. But I still have it in the family. I passed it down to my daughter and asked her to keep good tabs of that, so that can maybe go through the family. Though I just don't know how many more washes it can uphold, because of it's getting pretty worn. But it's still here and with us, so we'll see. So that's some on my mom's side. It continues to go back generations on both sides. My mom's father's side, I'm very closely involved with one of my mom's aunts, cousins, that way, in more quilting things. Her side of the family goes many different directions that way. I mentioned my grandma's sister that gave me the quilt top, that she does a lot of crafting and creating, so it's fun to stay in touch with her that way. Her quilts are amazing. I don't think I can ever live up to what she does. A lot of hand applique work, and it's just wonderful. But we all have our different styles and things that we're talented with, and maybe one day, right? But I want to hop over for a minute and talk about some things on my dad's side of the family. So my grandmother on my dad's side, she was also very talented in the sewing and quilting and crafting world, and she passed away just a couple of years ago. And again, I was lucky enough to be very close to her, and it was so fun to share our projects together. And every time I would finish something or be working in the middle of something, she'd always ask me, "What are you working on now? What's your next project? What have you got going on?" Or when I would finish something, I would be able to show her, look at this I just finished. And both grandmas were so supportive of me that way, wanting to always see what I was doing and what I was in the works with, and either give me some feedback or just a lot of really good encouragement. But this particular grandma, my paternal grandmother, she also, as a career, worked at a local sewing plant. So she was very talented seamstress, made a lot of shirts, I'm sure some pants along the way that way, but she did a lot that way. So I wanted to first show some pieces that she made for me when I was a little girl. This one is so fun and so cute. This little jumper with a cute little kind of a Western style top. I have some pictures of me playing around in this one. It's just a cute little denim jumper skirt with a shirt underneath it. So that's one that my mom saved and passed down to me to keep track of now. And then she also, this grandmother also made my blessing dress as a baby blessing gown. And just a special one to have from her. So that was the back. Sorry, I showed that one off backwards that way. But I unfortunately didn't use this one for my daughter, which looking back I kind of regret I did not. But I still have track of that and still use that one. When Grandma got to where she needed to move out of her home and she moved into a local place, she was setting up her room and a bed, and she called up and says, "You know that blue and red and white quilt you got that I handed to you?" I says, "Yeah, I remember that one." And she's like, "Do you still have that?" "Of course I still have that." She said, "Well, I'd like to put that on my bed. Could you bring that over?" So we hauled that over to her and took it. And it was this quilt right here. And her mother had made this quilt. And this is what she wanted on her bed for quite some time. Some curved piecing in there, a lot of hand quilting that went behind this one. And it's held up well. The batting in this still feels thick, unlike my blanket that's got used a little too much. But so this one comes from that side of the family. And this one gets pulled out once in a while, but as some of these quilts get a little older and a little bit more fragile, I hesitate to pull them out too much, but I do like to get them out on display once in a while, just more for display rather than use. But this one's a fun one, showing off that kind of a little bit of a cathedral window style, but that curved piecing there, and then there's some kind of flower motifs going in these bigger blue blocks that way. So eventually Grandma decided to get a different quilt, and then she made sure I got this one back, which I was glad for. But she also did some quilting outside of her sewing herself, and I was lucky enough to get some. This was kind of one of her style. She got this really cozy kind of flannel feeling fabric, and she would hand tie that with some friends. And I have one of these for each of my 3 kids in different colors. So one got the blue back. I think this was my oldest. I have a pinkish and purplish colored one for my daughter, and then another one that's yellows and greens, and for my youngest boy. So Grandma did do some quilting. I have quite a few other quilts. Again, these are just one to represent each thing, each of those the items of work that they liked to do. But if we could have a project parade and be here all day if I showed off everything I have from all of them. But I do want to highlight 2 other quilts that I have here that as Grandma was moving out of her home into this home locally, she passed a couple of things over to me. And this one, I believe it was her mother's side, if I'm remembering right. Again, I'll have to clarify that with my mom, but cutest little sunbonnet Sue's on it. And some little buttons tied on there. But unfortunately, there's some pieces that are kind of coming undone and unfurled. The back has completely washed off. It's just straight batting on the back. And I just need to do some work on this one. So she handed that one over to me. And this has got tucked away for now because it is pretty fragile. But this is something I'm going to be looking into figuring out what to do in the future here. There's a little bit of a tear on this block right here that needs some repair. But the cutest little sunbonnets on there, and those Sues remind me of my heritage that way. So we'll figure out how to repair some of this and get it back in some good shape that way. But I was lucky and blessed to get my hands on that one and figure out what we want to do with that and figure out how we're going to bring that quilt back to life. As we were cleaning out Grandma's home, grab this paper that fell, we stumbled across what we just thought was kind of a random pillow in a pillowcase. And my aunt went to open it up and this note fell out of it. And this was a note with Grandma's handwriting, and it was addressed to me. So at some point she tucked it away and forgot, which is kind of a family joke. But it had the intent of coming to me, and I was very glad that she labeled that as so, because otherwise we probably wouldn't have known what to do with this. The note tells us that it was something that was my dad's when he was younger, and that her mom made this, and that she wanted it to go to me to keep track of, which I felt very blessed and privileged of. So not only does this come from my grandma, then it was my dad's baby quilt, and now I get to keep track of it. I'm not the best with fabrics, so I have no idea what kind of fabric this is, but again, a lot of hand quilting. I don't know if great grandma did this. I would imagine they probably had a quilting guild that got together and did a lot of that. Maybe she did all the stitching herself. Those are some stories I'd love to find out one day, and I think one day I will, one day in the future. But unfortunately, I don't know the full story of that right now. But in the meantime, I'll hold it near and dear until I can find out some more. But I just kind of want to wrap things up. Like I said, I've got so many different things like this around my home. I was gifted my grandma's machine when she passed. I have a photo of her sitting at that machine sewing. So this was my dad's mom. I got a lot of fabric from my other grandmother's stash that I've been able to incorporate into a lot of quilts and hold dear that way. And just my hopes are that one day, when all this gets passed down to my kids and other generations in the future, that they will be able to appreciate the things, that the work that goes behind this, and the hours of love and labor that go behind not even knowing who's going to have their hands on that. I am sure my great grandma had no idea that this would end up in my hands, let alone get passed down generations in the future for my children as well. And I guess I just want to wrap this up and kind of sharing and encouraging everybody here that it's important to keep your interests and hobbies going and documenting that, so that your family in the future will know where and why some of that was special to you, where it's coming from. But especially you might have some struggles right now feeling like, oh, they don't appreciate that. Oh, that doesn't mean anything. I'm sure my great grandmothers, neither one of them knew where their things were going to end up, but it might take a few generations down the road, but there will be somebody that will value and appreciate that. And it's worth the work that you're putting into it now. So I just want to encourage you all, as we wrap things up here, keep making, keep creating, find what you love, and do what you can to continue keeping that love going, because you never know where that's going to land in the future. So we'll wrap things up here. Took a little bit more time than I wanted, or thought I should say, thought it would, and I didn't even show a fraction of what we've got around the house here. Bless my husband's heart for being patient with me and stashing things away. But keep it up. If you have something special, I would love for you to leave a comment. What's something you have in your hands that's near and dear to your heart that you're hoping will also get passed down into the future, whether it's being something that's been passed to you or something you've made that you're hoping will get passed in the future. I'd love to hear all of that from you and kind of where you're taking things, and we will catch up again here in a couple weeks. Thanks.